theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top-quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
Make plans to attend the Nebraska Whiskey Carnival this Saturday at Sideshow Spirits in Lincoln. This unique one-day festival highlights Nebraska distilleries, local vendors, and chill music. A general admission ticket gets you a custom tasting glass and free samples from the distillery booths. Food trucks will be on site to sell food and snacks, and cigars will be available for purchase. Get your tickets today at sideshowspirits.com. It's the Whiskey Carnival this Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. at Sideshow Spirits at 16th and P.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Copple Chevrolet GMC, and they're having the biggest hail sale they've ever had. A huge opportunity is at your front door right now. Some of these cars we're fixing, some we're not, and some it's totally up to you. New Sierra starting at $15,000 off list. New Canyons at $8,500 off list. New body styles on the Acadias, $3,000 off list. You need to hurry as there's going to be a lot of people heading to Louisville. Check us out at copplecars.com. Stock numbers G121492, G187747, and G196599.
The Captain with Vershawn Jackson, Terrell Farley, and Jake Bakoven.
I'm looking at a mirror. I'm sitting right next to him.
So I was up at the facility earlier today. I had the opportunity to talk to the 2025 Nebraska Cornhuskers. But man, those dudes were locked in. They were asking questions. I saw the intentionality. I saw the focus. I saw the hunger. And when I'm leaving the meeting, before any of those guys got up, they all waited for Dylan Raiola to address them. And he addressed them and gave the tentative schedule of like what they're going to be. This is Friday. They're free. They're done for the week. And they're talking about the things that they got to do. And that gave me chills.
Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Old School, sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman and Austin Oerman. Old School with Foreman and Oerman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome in. It is Old School on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Jay Foreman will be along on the phone here momentarily. But for now, we got East Strick sticking around. Thanks, partner.
Yeah.
Got you to stick around because we're sipping a little bit. Not a Thirsty Thursday. It's a Thirsty Friday, as it's been called before. We got Elena from the Upside Bar and Lounge in with us. Elena, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. How are things down at the old spot?
It's good. It is summertime, so it gets a little slower on the south side. Everybody's out boating and traveling and stuff like that. But it's still been good. It's still every month. It's just been better than the year before the same month. So can't complain.
We like to hear that. People aren't boating every day, every night. At least they better not be. So stop by the Upside Bar and Lounge. Remind people what you got going on at the bar over the summer.
But we still got our karaoke nights. We still have the UFC fight night. That's why I'm here today. We're promoting that. So that's tomorrow. We still got our music bingo on Tuesdays. We have a washer league on Wednesdays going on right now. So still lots of stuff going on. Busy.
Washer league got some pros.
Well, I'm basically in last place, but I play too. So
nice.
It's just for fun. It gets people, something to do. So
do you guys have like a cornhole tournament?
So my bar doesn't, but I actually have some friends. We have a Thursday night. We pop around at each other's houses.
Oh, that's nice.
But nothing affiliated with the bar.
Are you? Do you say you've got a touch? You got the Midas touch?
That I'm good at.
Oh.
Well, what's the difference?
She's definitely good at this
the cornhole and the washers. Then
washers are the little metal thing.
So in your head, what's the difference for you? Why are you good at one but not the other?
Cornhole.
What do you think it is? What do you think it is?
It's the bounce. So I used to play slow pitch softball. And so when I get that rhythm, and exactly where to hit it, it just right there. Well, as washers, Yeah, it's a little more difficult. I mean, it's just you got to get it right in that hole.
Are you a backspin softball, slow soft pitch, or you are just the front
Just
hand?
front hand. Yeah, just underhand.
So you don't know how to throw that.
I mean, I didn't practice. It has been 25 years, so
Okay.
I did graduate a long time ago, and I didn't play in
Yeah,
college.
people have all these little tricks with the slow pitch just to try to throw you off. But I was just wondering.
Yeah, mine was good. I could like go up really high, so you thought it was gonna go be a ball behind you, and it would just drop.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That
was
super
my
drop.
Yeah, that was my.
That was your special.
Yeah.
Nice. What is which of these is the specialty that we're drinking here? That's how we convince Strick to stick around.
Yes,
Sip
for
a
some
little
drinks.
bit. What are we going with
Sippy for
first here?
Stricky.
So we've got the Buzz Bowl Club. We brought a couple last week or
Yes.
last month. I mean,
Yeah.
for it. So we tried a couple different ones. I just love them. They're really good and they're strong. So be careful.
Which one?
They're both. They both
Oh.
come from the menu.
There's a patio pounder because they don't taste like they're strong, and all of a sudden they creep up on you and hit you with a right hook.
So one of them, the kind of the creamy one,
Yeah.
is the Wake Me Up Buzz Bowl. I
Mhm.
brought the menu this time, so I'd actually
Aha,
have names.
nice.
So that's got an espresso
Right?
martini Buzz Bowl.
Yeah, you don't really even taste it, right? It's smooth.
So smooth. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yep.
Wow.
You got a little coffee taste to it.
Yep, it's good. I love all of them. They're really good. And then the other one is the Strawberry Rita Buzz. It says two Margarita Buzz Bowl. There's a song out there about margaritas. So I was like, I named it that.
But you said something about there's a lot of people that like those sweet and sour, the worms, and the different types of candies or the now and laters or whatever it is. Any of those type of candy. You said something about there's in the strawberry one. There's like some candy in it, right?
So there's 13 of the drinks. Every single one of them has some sort of candy with it or cookie.
Wow.
I think last time we brought the cookie one in
Yes.
for you guys, and then maybe a watermelon one that had some little watermelon candy. So
Mhm.
that one, the ststrawberry one has strawberry candies, and then the coffee one has like a caramel.
A coffee,
Yeah.
a toffee or
Yeah,
something.
something like that.
Very
So,
nice.
Yeah, just kind of and like I said, so you can get it as an individual pint, or you can get in a big kind of like chalice like bowl
Ooh.
thing. So.
Back in college, so let me ask this question. Back in college, this is not, about a competition thing, but I just remembered, we used to hang out in O Street and they had them big old super fish bowls. Is it like that or is it something?
I mean, it's 32,
Not that big?
32 ounces, so it's
Oh, wow.
it's not as big as the fish bowls. I think it's Duffy's, I believe.
Is it
down-
Duffy's?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've
Okay.
been down O Street.
Yeah, no, I remember that. We go down there and get them and walk out of there with a little
Yeah.
stumble to it.
Yep. Those are strong. So it's kind of the same idea. The Buzz Bowls, they're pretty high alcohol content. So the balls, and so there's two of them. We
Balls.
actually have a limit of 2 bowls per person. So I just got to be careful. I'll watch people to make sure they don't get too much in them.
Because you're about two things: fun and responsibility at the upside
both.
bar.
Well, we don't want to have UFC nights in the bar.
No,
so
none
be
of
careful.
that.
Speaking of UFC night, people stumbling around after their fight. Remind people what you guys do for UFC.
So no cover, which is great. So get there early.
Or you don't have a seat.
Yep, exactly. I mean, standing room's great too, but
Yeah.
so it should be. I heard it's a good fight. Like I said, I'm not much on the fighters per se, but everybody's been kind of talking about this one. So I think we'll have a good crowd. And we keep our kitchen open up late, so we got food going, and yeah, it should be a fun time. So
I am not the UFC guy either. Stricky, do you have any insight?
Oh, I love UFC. I don't know who's fighting this fight night.
Sean O'Malley, it looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, I like him. He's good. He's talented. He throws a lot of different wild kicks, spinning back fists. He sometimes will come out with the crazy hair, maybe braided. O'Malley's cool. He's a solid fighter. Is he a champion now?
I
know?
think it's a championship.
Yeah. He might have gotten a championship out, but he's a crafty fighter. He's fun to watch. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people excited about this fight,
Yeah.
so I actually have to miss it. Well, I'll be there later. I've got a wedding to go to. So same Hannah too. So, but she's like on call, so she's ready to run in if it gets busy. Well, hopefully it does.
Make it busy. Make Hannah go in. Skip the
Yep.
wedding. Is Hannah a weddings person? Does she like the social aspect of it, or would she
Oh.
rather be at the bar working?
Oh, well, but I mean, she likes making money, so
Sure.
I mean, but both. I think, like me and Hannah, we've become really good friends. So we definitely like to go out and be social
I
together.
think I might give you one of these shirts to wear for my show. And then that way, whenever you guys have a promo on one of these days, you can Tell them what the what.
I love it.
I'll have to give you a shirt. What size you wear?
I would probably a small, medium.
Small,
somewhere in
medium?
there.
All
Yeah.
right. I'll have to get you one.
There you go. W, thanks for including me on WTF yesterday, Stricky.
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciated that.
I'm glad.
Made it work.
I'm glad you was able to hang out.
Yeah.
You had to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someday. Tonight, though, tomorrow night, get to the Upside Bar and Lounge, 27th, 28th in Pine Lake.
Yep.
And that will strip
Even
mall
with the
there.
construction there, you can still get
Oh,
to
there's
it.
construction.
Oh.
Which
Oh, wow.
entrance? Tell people what they got to do to get
Well,
in
you
the
just
round.
go on the back side of the kind of the strip mall area. It's not too bad. It really isn't. It's just right in front of the mall. So each side is open on both sides. So it's not too bad.
Still accessible.
Yes.
Not an
very,
excuse to
very
not come
accessible.
out.
No excuse.
Excellent. Get there to the Upside Bar and Lounge for UFC. Major League Baseball.
Yep. We got the MLB package. So we have all the games. So yeah.
And then in the fall, you go on the Sunday ticket route.
Yeah, I've got to
Potentially?
evaluate that. We did it last year, but there's some other bars in the area that will have it. So I'm just kind of it's very expensive.
We were talking about
very,
that.
very.
Yeah.
So I've got to evaluate if it's worth trying to have it again. So,
But at the very least, you want to watch your baseball team. The Upside Bar
Yes,
and Lounge
we've
is
got that.
absolutely the place to do that. Elena, thanks time for coming in.
Yeah.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
For Strick, I'm Austin. We'll bring Jay Foreman on for Old School after this.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Oerman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits is your place in North Lincoln to go for all your needs in wine, spirits, and beer. They also have a large variety of cigars in their walk-in humidor, and they have a top-notch walk-in temperature-controlled high-end wine room. Plus, you can enjoy free samples from their tasting bar. There's only one place to go for all your needs for spirits and cigars. That's Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits on North 27th Street in Lincoln.
Make plans to attend the Nebraska Whiskey Carnival this Saturday at Sideshow Spirits in Lincoln. This unique one-day festival highlights Nebraska distilleries, local vendors, and chill music. A general admission ticket gets you a custom tasting glass and free samples from the distillery booths. Food trucks will be on site to sell food and snacks, and cigars will be available for purchase. Get your tickets today at SideshowSpirits.com. It's the Whiskey Carnival this Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. at Sideshow Spirits at 16th and P.
Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 10th are $1 off per pack of Plum Creek chicken, $1 off all bacon, and 15% off cheese and crackers. Plus, stop by for lunch on Fired Up Thursday at the Mercado East or Fired Up Friday at the Mercado North. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
What's better than supporting your favorite radio station and eating delicious Nebraska-made products? Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska wants to highlight you, the listener, on the 93.7 The Ticket Wall of Fame at the store. Stop by the store at 48th and R in Lincoln and see their huge variety of small batch gourmet jerky. Or if you're not in the area and want to try some, go to smokinggunjerky.com and enter code EARLY for 10% off your purchase. It's the ultimate low-calorie, high-protein snack at Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Rick Heyman here from Sauter Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. You can count on Sauter Heyman for the very best quality, value, and customer service. When it comes to your jewelry needs, visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at SauterHeyman.com, and thank you for your continued trust after all these years.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
Lincoln's new craft cocktail lounge is Bar 48 in Lincoln. Located at 2639 North 48th Street, Bar 48 offers everything from cocktails to beer to wine and so much more. With summer right around the corner, you can always enjoy Bar 48's frozen beverages. Follow them on Facebook to stay up to date on their live music performances every Saturday night. Make plans to visit Bar 48 on North 48th Street in the heart of the University Place neighborhood today.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and they're having the biggest hail sale they've ever had. A huge opportunity is at your front door right now. Some of these cars we're fixing, some we're not, and some it's totally up to you. New Sierra starting at $15,000 off list. New Canyons at $8,500 off list. New body styles on the Acadias, $3,000 off list. You need to hurry as there's going to be a lot of people heading to Louisville. Check us out at cobblecars.com. Stock numbers G121492, G187747, and G196599.
The Captain with Vershawn Jackson, Terrell Farley, and Jake Bachman.
I'm looking at a mirror. I'm sitting right next to him.
So I was up at the facility earlier today. I had the opportunity to talk to the 2025 Nebraska Cornhuskers. But man, those dudes were locked in. They were asking questions. I saw the intentionality. I saw the focus. I saw the hunger. And when I'm leaving the meeting, before any of those guys got up, they all waited for Dylan Raiola to address them. And he addressed them and gave the tentative schedule of like what they're going to. This is Friday. They're free. They're done for the week. And they're talking about the things that they got to do. And that gave me chills.
Back to old school with Foreman and Oerman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back into Old School. Big thanks to E. Strick for sticking around and Elena from the Upside Bar and Lounge for stopping by. But let's hit the man on the road, Husker Hall of Famer, 9-year NBA vet, Jay Foreman. What's good, 44?
Yeah, not much, man. This is another good week. But you know how it is. We're probably about 45 minutes away for his lights, camera, action over there at the stadium. So it's going to be interesting to hear the little tidbits coming out of there from the 7-on-7 tournament that's been going on all day.
I asked Strick in our text line this question. Would love to know your answer. If you could have a ticket to any game in any college football season to watch one college football player play that you didn't get to see, who would you go back and watch?
Well, number one, always my dad. Number two, I would say Reggie Bush, just because he was must-see TV. I'd like to watch him live. I saw, obviously, all the highlights. But I think Reggie Bush, just because Reggie Bush and Vince Young, just because that was probably one of the most exciting national championship games ever.
I'm glad you brought up those names. Reggie and Vince definitely came up in our discussion on our text line as well. The basis for that question was with that 7-on-7 camp. Cam Newton's in town. Got a picture with him and Coach Rule there on the interweb, so that's up for people to go look at. I posed this to Stricky. Was Vince Young Cam Newton before Cam Newton?
Oh, he was way before his time. If he would have been in this modern day, just like Tommy Frazier, he would have definitely been more than the number one pick, but he would have been iconic like Lamar Jackson. I mean, he definitely was, and it's based on, where you go, right? He went to Tennessee, Cam went to Carolina, how they nurtured him, with Jeff Fisher versus, Fox and Ron Rivera. You have a head coach in an organization that truly believes in you, go through the growing pains, and then also, more importantly, have a number one receiver for you. Then you have the iconic, at times, the iconic career as Cam Newton had, winning the MVP and obviously taking Carolina on the brink of winning the Super Bowl, lost to the Denver Broncos, but he won the MVP and obviously lived up to the billing versus Vince Young. With Jeff Fisher, Tennessee kind of always on limbo. They believed him or not. Then you bring in Marcus Mariota, and the next thing you know, he's kind of in and out of the league, and it's the difference of his career. So definitely Vince Young was well before his time, but then also I think his career would have been on the path of kind of Cam Newton if he would have had the same type of support from top to bottom, like we always talk about. It starts at the top, trickles down to the players, and then obviously I think Cam Newton, when Carolina drafted him, had a little bit better supporting cast, but then also had the support from the top and the powers that be.
It's interesting to look back at the careers of both Vince Young and Cam Newton, because on the one hand, what made them special was exactly what you said. They were ahead of their time. And I think guys like that, in an era like this with football being played the way it is, would have found a way to be successful. But Jay, I don't know if Cam Newton and Vince Young are playing today, if we appreciate them for who they are, because not that we see guys like Vince Young and Cam Newton all the time, but we see enough of their skill set sprinkled in throughout the league. You can only imagine if they'd been used, maybe a little smarter, maybe been able to stay a little healthier, what they could have been. But also the fact that we hadn't seen anything like them, there's some of that awe, that mystique, that aura around those guys that if they're playing in 2025, I don't think it's the same compared to, 2005 and 2015.
Yeah, it is. When you say that like that, Austin, it's like it's underappreciated, but then also I think they set the tone for more guys like him. You just think of the Underwood kid that's up in Michigan, 6'4", 220 pounds, dual threat, the number one recruit and getting, on average $2.5 million a year in NIL. So their effect obviously spread the path is spread wide, but I don't think those two, and especially Cam Newton, and I'm going to tell you this, I met Cam Newton down there at the Super Bowl. I consider myself a pretty sizable big dude. He is every bit of a defensive end, and obviously he was next level when he was playing. And so those guys don't, grow readily, but I think guys that try to replicate it are out there. And that's why, this is like in another sport, like with Steph Curry, there's more guys that can actually try to shoot threes, not to the same magnitude as the greatest shooter of all time, but they can kind of, dress up like it. And you see some pretty darn good 3-point shooters. And more importantly, when Oakland upset Kentucky, they were led by a marksman as a 3-point shooter. So, I think what Cam Newton and Vince Young did is they set forth the path of the changing of the guard and quarterback. You got to think, Vince Young was before his time, and they were like, oh, he can't read defenses and all that, and how will he adjust to the NFL, to an NFL type of offense? Well, here's what Carolina did. They said, listen, we're going to adjust to Cam Newton. He came in, I think his first game was over 400 yards, and obviously you had Steve Smith out there, and then you had Greg Olsen as tight end. But here's what came next. You saw a little bit more of Jalen Hurts at Alabama. Then obviously he went to Oklahoma. Then you saw some more guys, even a little bit of Tua was a little bit of dual threat, even though he was a really good thrower. Then you saw Justin Fields and those type of guys start to get more chances. And even your boy that got drafted before, I would say my man, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, they are byproducts in some form or fashion from Vince Young, then Cam Newton. Therefore, really they had a big impact on not only college, or actually high school, college, and in the National Football League.
It's been really interesting to see, the bigger bodied guys like Vince Young and Cam Newton give way really to the next one being Lamar Jackson, right? Spindly, tall, lanky kind of guy. And then you had, the athleticism of Watson and Mahomes. But the dual threat mobile quarterback, I think, has given more guys an opportunity to play the position and thrive at the position, including your guy, Pocket Hercules. I think we have to include Kyler Murray in that conversation as well. I mean, we think about, smaller pocket passers. You think about Drew Brees. He really had to be the exception to a lot of people's presuppositions about the quarterback position. But I think then, if you told people that what you start at Vince Young turns into, Jalen Hurts, who's well built but not overly tall, and Kyler Murray right before him. I mean, a lot of people are making Kyler Murray a slot receiver, but I think even he has a little bit of a hand in the quarterback revolution in college.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he's a Texas high school legend. I don't think he ever lost, and they still talk about him. Even though he's a punitive, little guy, and I always mess with him on his size, but he's like, the Jolly Green Giant or Paul Bunyan as far as how good he was in the high school ranking. And so, does it all form or sizes, they come in, the version from Cam Newton and Vince Young, and everybody is a byproduct. And let's not forget Baker Mayfield in the way that he was able to jump on the scene in college, and obviously Johnny Manziel and all these guys got shots, not only in college, but in the NFL based on the success of some of their predecessors or that went along with it at around their same time. It became, more of an asset versus a detriment, where they tried to downgrade guys because you were a dual threat. Now they use it as, when Jalen Hurts first got in the NFL, and you saw it, obviously, Anthony Richardson with your Colts. They said, listen, if we can get this guy to pass the ball efficiently enough, what he does with his legs and obviously his body and mind takes it to the next level. And obviously you've seen the accumulation of it with Jalen Hurts and obviously Patrick Mahomes.
And the one guy I would throw out also in the early 2000s has to be Michael Vick. We skipped over him.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. I saw Michael Vick up close and personal when he came off of, I think, an ankle injury, and it was probably one of the, I would say the scariest moments. But when you see him on tape, and Michael Vick, I think, was next level. I think he was probably a mix of a faster version of Lamar Jackson, and just because he's left-handed, Tua, but he threw one of the best deep balls ever. But you see Michael Vick on tape, and you're like, okay, well, he's fast, right? You can go against a couple fast guys that are, that can run, McNabb and those guys. But he was easily the fastest guy on the field, and that's what made him so dangerous and obviously such a weapon. But, I guess he would be the godfather. And obviously before him, when Michael Vick resurrected his career in Philly was Randall Cunningham. And, I think the appreciation of the guys that were able to do it before the guys that are doing now is something that kind of gets, pushed to the side. But those guys really, really had an impact on every single level in football. And that's what, it makes guys like Vince Young and obviously Cam Newton legends.
We're talking with Jay Foreman, Husker Hall of Famer, host of Old School, joining us here on our Allo Fiber VIP line. I can sense it in your voice, Jay. You're tired of talking about offense, so let's flip to defense. We got a comment from Cassie on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. Says, Jay, do you have any comments on the passing of the great Jim Marshall, member of the Purple People Eaters?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been knowing Jim Marshall, or knew Jim Marshall ever since I was a little kid, man. It was Uncle Jim, and he was great. He had a big impact on my dad's career when he came up to Minnesota from Minnesota from Miami. And so, Jim was like, he was like family. And, look, it's, he had an iconic career playing over 20 years at defensive end. He was the captain, obviously when he was at the Cleveland Browns early in his career. But then when he got to the Vikings, he went to legendary status, never missed a game, but then obviously represented the Minnesota Vikings, on and off the field with the utmost respect. And obviously was well thought of in and outside of the locker room. So it sucks to see that or hear the news that he passed away. He's been, sick for a while, but he's so tough that, or was so tough that you never felt like, that he was ever going to, obviously succumb to what he had going on. I mean, you remember the story of him being stuck out in the wilderness and him lasting 3 days, and, going back to the facility and practicing like no big deal. And so, everybody's, hearts are felt that, he passed away, but obviously I think his impact, like we talked about, the guys that, at the quarterback position, will live long past, this next few days and weeks and years of hurt, because he is the true embodiment of being a Viking, and Jim Marshall will be sorely missed.
Recovered an NFL record 29 fumbles in his career on top of everything that Jay just added. For those who might not understand just how good the Purple People Eaters were defensively, what stands out to you about that unit?
Well, my dad told me that, he watched Jim Marshall when he was like 11, 12 years old. And obviously there wasn't a lot of football games on, but he was able to watch Jim Marshall, play. And then obviously the Purple People Eaters. I think, for me, I knew them all on a personal level with Gary Larson, obviously Carl Eller, Alan Page, and then obviously Jim Marshall. 4 distinct different personalities and obviously different body types. I would say, Gary Larson looked like a Viking. Alan Page was obviously, he became the Supreme, court justice, be on the Supreme Court and the judge on the Supreme Court, I think. And then you had Carl Eller, who they nicknamed Moose, and he was like a huge giant and still is to this day. But they all played together and they all worked extremely hard and they all played off each other. So I guess with the Giants, when they beat the Patriots, they had their pass rush unit, the NASCAR unit of 4 defensive ends out there. The Vikings obviously did it long before that with the Purple People Eaters. And the great thing about it is that, when the offense started to take off in, my dad and Franz Harkington and Ahmad Rashad, Sammy White, and Stu Voigt, and obviously that offensive line with Mick Tingelhoff and the likes of those guys, the defense played off what set it off early, and then the offense was able to, rise to the occasion and be pretty effective. And they had pretty good runs up there with the Vikings. Even though they weren't able to complete the mission and get a Super Bowl, they still had some iconic players and iconic, defensive units led by that defensive line, the Purple People Eaters.
You got to pick one. Purple People Eaters, Steel Curtain, or Monsters of the Midway?
Well, I'm gonna go Purple People Eaters. That's family. Obviously, the Steel Curtain was obviously really good as well and legendary. Doesn't take a backseat to anybody. And it's hard. Whether you're judging LeBron James versus Jordan or Bird and Curry, and everybody wants to look at championships, but the Purple People Eaters were pretty dang good. And then you could even throw in the no-name defense of the Miami Dolphins and so forth and so on. So I like the Purple People Eaters. I think they had to, obviously during their era, they could play the run and they could rush the passer. And then I think they also, were probably the godfathers of the defensive line that was actually must-see TV, or the guys that really, got off the bus first. And I liked it because, one, I knew them all personally, but then, more importantly, they all had different personalities, and they all were great players, right? And when you think about it, they all had unique personalities and great players, but they all played for one another. And that's a lost art in this day and age of football in general. I was going to say college football, but they had a big impact. And people are still talking about them right now. Obviously Jim Marshall, with his passing, obviously brought it to light. But you hear some iconic players, whether it's John Randall, Aaron Donald, and even at times Warren Sapp mentioned the Purple People Eaters, and also the tradition that they set forth for the Minnesota Vikings defensive line. You got to think after that, they had the Chris Dolmans, the Al Nogas, the John Randalls, the Keith Lards, and the Henry Thomas. That was a byproduct of the standards that the Purple People Eaters set forth, years and years prior to the Minnesota Vikings.
Let's turn our attention, Jay. NBA Finals, your reaction to Game 1 between the Thunder and the Pacers last night.
Well, when he took the shot, I was thinking, I told Austin that Tyrese Halliburton was going to do his thing. And, he's a guy that has no fear. I think he's playing with house money. I felt like OKC had control of the game, the all game, but they never really got a big enough lead that the Pacers went away, and they just kept chipping away. And you got to give the credit to Rick Carlisle. That's the X factor, being in those situations before, having the experience, maybe having the black book of other coaches that he can call and try to make it small ball and situational basketball rang true. And then once that last shot, it was really good defense by them, and it was Siakam really faked it, or they call it feint. Like he was going to help on, Shea Alexander. And then he went back and he got to the corner, forced him into a harder shot, make him pick up his dribble and shoot it. One dribble too early, got the rebound. And then once you let Tyrese Halliburton get you on the move, he is very comfortable when it's kind of hectic. And the reason why is because I think he really studies his opponent. If you go all the way back to when he was going against Giannis, Giannis played up on him too quick, and then he took Giannis to the rack. 22 from OKC. He went for the first and second move, so Tyrese knew he had him on the third move, pulled up mid-range or deep mid-range, and the way when he shot it, you knew it was in. And that's one guy that you're going to have to either hard hedge, I call it super hedge, where you're going to have to double team him or face guard him to make sure that he doesn't get the ball because anything late in the shot clock or when it's money time, he's built for it. He's been like that even back when he was with the Kings. He was like that when he was with Iowa State. I think it's just the confidence that he's actually, been in those situations and been successful. Now, look, there's plenty of times where he doesn't make it right during the regular season. But I think the bigger the stage and then also the bigger the moment, I think he really, really enjoys those types of situations. And he likes being overlooked. Also, some guys just sulk when they don't get their way, right? And kind of being made fun of, and then him having the humility to make fun of himself of getting a gold medal and not, obviously really contributing in the for the Olympics was underneath that was the motivation. I'm going to show you, he's the last man standing, from that team, right? You got to think Tatum gone, everybody else that was supposed to be better than him, and there's some really good players, and he didn't play. He's the last man standing there, and they're all, watching him. And then also he's producing, and there's nothing better than making those game-winning shots in money time when everybody else is at home watching you.
Speaking about money time, saw this posted from Extra Stats on Twitter by way of Sports Reference. Tyrese Halliburton ties Reggie Miller with 5 game-tying or lead-taking shots with under 5 seconds left in the game in the playoffs since 1997. Reggie Miller went 5 of 9 on those from 97 on. Tyrese Halliburton now 5 out of 6. Jay, there's only one player since 1997 with more game-tying or lead-taking shots in the final 5 seconds in the game since 1997. Do you have a guess who that would be?
LeBron.
LeBron James, 8 out of 20.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they actually, people don't give LeBron enough credit for being money down the stretch because it was kind of his asterisk on his, career early. But he hit a lot more game-winning shots than he gets credit for. Not the iconic ones of Jordan against the Cavs or even Kawhi in the corner against the Philadelphia 76ers when he was with the Raptors. But LeBron James has been money, and he's hit some big shots. Especially even for the Lakers, and obviously a ton of them with the Cavs and Miami Heat. So, yeah, LeBron James, and plus he's been able to be in those situations a lot. And the way that the game is played now, right, where no lead is safe in the NBA. You could be up by 40 and then be in for a dogfight with 2 minutes left. And so you're going to have a lot more of those, game-tying, game-winning shots if you're an iconic player at the status of LeBron James. But one thing I would tell you, about standard, right? You talk about Reggie Miller, and I think the 30 for 30 was just on, again, with the Pacers and the Knicks and how much bad blood there is, right? But it really focused on Reggie Miller and his personality. Once you're a big-time player there with the Pacers, and you kind of, the Pacers are a place where you go back to Paul George and that team, and you had Roy Hibbert. They were kind of overlooked. Like, yeah, the Pacers are good. And you had a knucklehead in Lance Stevenson, and he really helped or cost them a championship or a potential chance at a championship. But that was the birth of Paul George, right? Kind of overlooked. The guy in the middle of the country really became a star power. Same thing with Tyrese Halliburton. Buddy Hield was there. They got him out of there, but then they really brought in a guy that really welcomed the challenge of making the Pacers a good team. And then you got lucky with Rick Carlisle, unexpectedly getting fired from the Dallas Mavericks. Now you get a championship coach, and then now you get a guy that's trying to be a champion and that welcomes that last second and all that heat in Indianapolis for the Pacers. That's how you end up, trying to be the second coming of Reggie Miller. But it was really, really, really cool to see the mindset of Reggie Miller and where he grew up, being overlooked, obviously with his sister Cheryl Miller being an iconic player and probably the better one in the family with the bigger name at that point in time. Same thing with Tyrese Halliburton. You end up at Iowa State. Remember, they said he had a funky shot.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know if it's gonna. It is kind of a set shot, right? And plus he's 6'6", he can do that. But he always had to shoot deep with the low release and kind of the set shot. Will it work in the NBA? Is he quick enough to guard? Well, he's really knocked every negative against him out of the park. He can guard. He can play a point guard, kind of a point shooting guard, point forward, small forward. And then obviously he has the heart of a champion to be able to shoot those shots in mind time and not only shoot them, but make them and not think twice about it after he makes them. Now it's the expectation or really the standard that he has to make those because he's exceeded all the expectations that people had on him coming into the league.
Do you blame Oklahoma City for losing or credit Indiana for winning? Do you lean one way with that?
I'm going to credit Indiana for winning. Because I think what happened is that I think Oklahoma City, they played really well. They were really efficient. They had, a 13-point lead. And then I think they realized about the middle of the second quarter, like these dudes can play. And this is a different Pacer team that you beat by 20, 30 points earlier in the year. And they would not go away. When Tyrese Halliburton was I remember at one point in time, I think at halftime he was 2 of 5, right? Mm-hmm. Looked like he was sleepwalking. Siakam was getting busy. Then you had, different guys trying to get going. But then once he got going, it just really opened up the floodgates. And it's down the stretch where he really started to assert himself as being aggressive, but then also being really, really efficient on the offensive side. So I'm going to give it to the Pacers going and winning that game. Because the reason why I feel like they won that game is they knew every time out, I know the conversation that they were having. At this point, we want to have it within this point range. At this next break or this timeout, we want to be here. And then once we get here, they just went and played. And then that was just second nature. So they really went out and won the game. I don't think OKC lost it. I just think the team played better down the stretch in situational basketball. And it wasn't because OKC wasn't doing the right thing. I think Indiana made it harder on them earlier in the game, but OKC was hitting those shots. You got to think they were hitting fadeaway bank shots early in the game. They stuck to it, played their defense, played their sets, and kept chipping away at it, and then got a chance to win it at the end. But it was all based off of having a good defensive series down on the defensive end.
Which is not exactly what you think about from Indiana. But, Jay, I do think they stuck to their game plan throughout the course, like you said. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has 38 points, but it took him 30 shots to get there. hit 14 of them, which isn't bad. But I think if you're Indiana, even though he's the MVP, if he's going to take, 25 to 30 shots per game, you like your chances of your depth maybe wearing him down by showing him different looks throughout the course of the series, because this is still an Oklahoma City team with some scars from last year, how that ended. The flip side of that equation is this same thing happened to OKC in the Western Conference semis against Denver.
Yeah.
So what's your concern level for Oklahoma City? Do you think that this woke them up, or do you think that there's legitimate cause for concern with what the Pacers can do to them?
Well, I think, neither team has a lot of championship pedigree, but I think the maturity led by Rick Carlisle really showed. But because you've seen a lot more frustration from Shea, towards his teammates when it got a little bit tighter than you saw even in the Denver series, because I felt like they knew, I think that against Denver, they knew that the youth and the legs would wear them down. And they knew once they got that 7-7, the game 7 at home, they obviously would, knock it out of the park. The only thing that, if I'm OKC, that concerns me is that Shea had to work awfully hard to have 38 points. And if I'm in Indiana, I like that. I like that we made you score 30. You never want to give up 38 points. But if you shoot 25 or more shots and you're 14, and now in this case you're 14 to 30, I like that, because I think there wasn't any easy shots. Every shot was contested. Every shot wasn't there was no defensive breakdowns, and I think you got the benefit down the stretch. It wasn't just the last shot that he missed. It was a shot two shots prior, and you didn't let him get in a rhythm and get a lot of easy baskets and the confidence that would not only he would get, but it was his teammates. And so I think Indiana was well prepared for him to be a volume shooter, and as long as he didn't really obviously hit at a high volume, they were okay with it. Now if I'm OKC, I need to get Chet going early, right? And then I'm thinking I'm going to use Indiana's kind of game plan: Chet, Dort, both Williams, and then let Shea be the closer. Versus in this game, I think Shea might have took the mindset of, I'm going to show you and I'm going to prove to you why I was the MVP on this big stage, and it backfired, especially down the stretch. And so whoever makes the adjustments in this next 24 hours and less than 24 hours is going to have the leg up in game 2. Now, obviously, OKC will probably come out and really, really assert themselves as a team. But more importantly, like you said, the scar tissue from last year, and then also at times during this playoff, especially at home, it doesn't sit so well because the pressure is so much higher when you're playing for a championship versus in the middle round, because you lose this one, another one at home, or you don't play well on the road, or you don't get some calls. Then the pressure is 10 times more in game 5 versus it was in game 7 against the Denver Nuggets.
That's Jay Foreman, Husker Hall of Famer, on our Aloe Fiber VIP line. You good to stick around for the last segment, Jay?
Yes, sir.
Cool. We'll go to break. Be right back for about 10 more minutes on Old School in just a sec.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Oerman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Lincoln's new craft cocktail lounge is Bar 48 in Lincoln. Located at 2639 North 48th Street, Bar 48 offers everything from cocktails to beer to wine and so much more. With summer right around the corner, you can always enjoy Bar 48's frozen beverages. Follow them on Facebook to stay up to date on their live music performances every Saturday night. Make plans to visit Bar 48 on North 48th Street in the heart of the University Place neighborhood today.
Are you looking for a place to relax and unwind after a long week? Grotto Bar and Lounge is the perfect spot to enjoy a full menu and in-house DJs on Friday and Saturday nights. If you're wanting to start your Saturday or Sunday off the right way, stop by for brunch starting at 9 a.m. Don't forget, Grotto offers a full catering service as well for those graduation parties, birthday celebrations, and weekend family get-togethers. Give Grotto Bar and Lounge a call today at 402-261-3019 or visit them in person at 70th and A in the Clock Tower Shopping Center.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
We're going to see a few showers around here for your Friday before we bring in a chance for some thunderstorms later on this evening into tonight. We'll get up to 76 for high temperature here today. That chance of thunderstorms will continue overnight. We'll drop down to a low temperature of 60 degrees. And then for your Saturday, 81 with, again, another chance for showers and thunderstorms. I'm meteorologist Aaron Dowden for 93.7 The Ticket and ticketfm.com.
93.7 The Ticket is your home for every Kansas City Royals baseball game. Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, and the rest of the Royals attempt to make the postseason for the second season in a row. And you can hear all the action on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Your home for Kansas City Royals baseball.
Midwest Bank is now hiring in Lincoln. They have multiple banking positions open and are looking for dynamic individuals passionate about helping others and building relationships. With a family-friendly culture, competitive benefits, and unique perks, Midwest Bank is a great place to start a new career. Apply today at midwest.bank. Midwest Bank is an equal opportunity employer, member FDIC.
Every home is different. Every family is different. So when it's time for a new heating and cooling system, why not get what fits you best? Get the perfect fit with Bryant. Maybe you need higher efficiency, better humidity control, increased warranty, or all the bells and whistles. Bryant provides options in warranty, features, comfort, and efficiency while maximizing savings. Call Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing, 467-1111, or visit BryantLincoln.com. Bryant, whatever it takes.
Back to old school with Foreman and Oerman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
One final segment here on Old School, brought to you by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. Special ingredient butcher shop, every type of meat, every type of cut. 3 Lincoln locations and 1 up in Omaha. I'm Austin Oerman, joined on our Aloe Fiber VIP line by Jay Foreman. 10 minutes left or so in the show. Jay, what you got on your mind today?
So, bring 7-on-17 man. Obviously, has a connection with Matt Rule. Matt Rule action for a little bit there in Carolina, but Cam Newton and his organization is one of the tops in the nation. So it lets you know what Nebraska is doing there to attract top 7-on-7 organizations to be highlighted, but then also what they're trying to do to get a leg up in recruiting. So obviously, I know that I think Trey Taylor is guest playing, I guess is like they like to call it, with a team out of Miami, to obviously help that team, but then also, peer recruit while the, kids are in town. So I'm really interested to see, visit unofficial visits that these kids are starting to take in June. Hope catapult and have an uptick in recruiting for Nebraska, because as much as this season's a big season for Nebraska, obviously the wins and losses and with how the schedule sets up, you always got to be thinking about how you can restock the roster, because you never know what happens, obviously, in the transfer portal. But recruiting is so competitive, you got to make sure that you're the first. And they always say, it used to be you just want to be on the list. Now you want to be at the top of the list of a lot of these recruits, because if you can mix some winning seasons, and obviously it starts with next year, along with some of the things that Nebraska has been trying to think of to, obviously put, highlight Nebraska in the football program and the city of Lincoln, the state of Nebraska, then you start to, get an uptick in some of these big-time recruits that are on campus right now.
It's a really cool idea and opportunity for these young men, but also for Nebraska, who, Jay, we've talked about, has money, that needs to splash it around, and that's more and more what recruiting is. But how often do we hear we just need to get young men and women and other sports to campus? This is such a creative, innovative thing for Nebraska to do. And it's one of the things that I think a lot of people have been asking Nebraska to do, not the camp necessarily, but innovate, push the boundaries, something like this that hasn't been done before. This is a great way for Nebraska, even to kids that are, committed to other places, or they don't have Nebraska in their top 5 or whatever it is. Nebraska probably won't make a lot of hay, won't get a lot of commitments from players in this group. But if Nebraska continues to host us, if Nebraska continues to run a good event. We haven't heard any, major bad reports out of it. Seems like things are going smoothly over there. These kids are going to talk about it for the rest of their lives. Oh, yeah, I remember that trip we took to Lincoln. It was really cool. Loved playing in the stadium. People were nice there, all that sort of thing. So it might not pay dividends for Nebraska now or next year, as nice as it would be. But I think if Nebraska is able to continue hosting this, I think planting the seeds in these people's minds, these young players' minds, the parents' minds that are coming up to watch, the coaches' minds, developing relationships, you don't know how it's going to pay off for Nebraska. But something this magnitude and something this creative, it feels like it has to pay off in something resembling a big way for Nebraska sooner than later.
Yeah, it started, a few years ago. I think Mike Riley did the Friday Night Lights, and obviously, we didn't get anybody then. We had some big-time players there, Micah Parsons and Bookie, but then, we kind of got the Cali Nebraska thing going, and then he didn't have enough time to really see it, come to fruition, and then obviously COVID was after that. But I think the one thing that, I do know is that, Matt Rule and company, they do put on, like, good camps and stuff like that, so the experience that all these players are getting, and I know this is a 7-on-7 event, is going to be, first class. And so if you don't get them this go round with the transfer portal, you have, good, you'll be in good favor and good feeling with those recruits if it's the second go round. More importantly, you get a better idea of evaluation of a player that you might not have seen up close and personal. And then also it's the connections with, the Cam Newtons and everybody else that's, running organizations, and kids and teams are coming from all across the country. And so, it's unofficial visits of a huge magnitude inside the stadium on your turf, on your terms. But then also, I think it's going to really put pressure on everybody else to try to match it. And then the best thing Nebraska can do is once they realize everybody else is trying to match it, then you got to be one step ahead. And that's how you continue to be innovative. Not only, you're from a creative level as far as like your thinking and obviously with the 7-on-7 events and the Big Red, Go Big project and all that stuff, but then there's also being a step or two ahead, not only in technology and obviously Nebraska, back in the day in their weight room prowess and stuff like that. You want to, you got to get back to that. And now it's in a different form, but you want to be that university is always going to be on the cutting edge and a step ahead of other programs, because that's going to allow you to gain ground on them and getting back to national prominence on a consistent level. And I think what you're trying to do is not always try to be in that rebuild mode. You want to reload. And one of those things you got to do is you got to be innovative. And so I like what they're doing. I still hold on hope they'll be able to, get it, maybe not a hard commitment come out of there, but sometimes you can get some really, really, good feelings on guys that they will commit in the near future. And I think also one of the things you don't want to do is, and I think this coaching staff does a good job of not putting on instant pressure. I think it's got to be, the feeling's got to be mutual, whether, you want them to commit and they want to commit, but then also the timing has to be right, because you don't want that commitment to be broken because it's almost like not almost, it's a relationship that you're going to try to foster for years to come. And so, I think patience obviously is something that you always got to, have, but then also you got to be strategic on when to push the buttons to get the commitment from, whether it's a 26, 27, and in some cases a 28 football player.
The 7-on-7 camp is the science of recruiting. How do we get them here? How do we get eyes on them? How do we showcase who we are as Nebraska? The relationship part is the art, knowing who each young man is in the football sense, getting to know their family, getting to know their coaches. You got to know which ones need that extra attention, right? Got to push a little bit harder to make sure you stay in the conversation. And those who you back off a little bit, you trust the process, trust that you're comfortable with what you put out there, and know that being too pushy, could actually drive you away from them. Really curious to see, which prospects come out of here with Nebraska interest, maybe a Nebraska offer if that's in the cards. But I think you're onto something there, Jay. The staff does so far at least seem to have a pretty good balance of, the mechanics of recruiting, the things that you have to do to try to compete for recruits at the top level, and the art of it, the soft people skills that, end up closing a lot of these deals in the end.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that, you want to do back in, with basketball, Austin, teams, way back in the day or just a few years ago would have a couple of JUCOs or whatever, was kind of like their, a little watering hole where they could hide athletes. So now, on a bigger scale with 7-on-7 and these guys that, train these guys, is you want to have a plethora of guys that you can count on, to send you players, but then also you can count on to pick their brain of players that you might, have overlooked or you haven't heard of, but then also get a good, insight on what makes them tick and how you should recruit them. Because, when these guys are training these kids and a lot of them, do 7-on-7 in training, they know what makes these kids tick. They've been knowing them from a very early age, sometimes as early as, 5th or 6th grade. And so they've been around them as much as anybody. And so they know, what buttons to push, when to push them, and then who to talk to when you're trying to get them to close. And so, the relationship building is probably as important as getting an evaluation on it. And I would probably argue that everybody that's showing up there most likely is a decent enough athlete to, play, some level of college football. Obviously, the ones that we're talking about or thinking about are the ones that are going to be at the Power 4 level. So athletic ability and all that stuff is probably, like, I would say, just ready-made. And I wouldn't say always a guarantee, but that's not something that you're really showing up to say, okay, let's see who's athletic or not. You know who's really athletic based on when they get here. The most important thing is creating and building relationships with guys, whether they're, like I said, they're a coach or a mentor or a trainer, that you can be able to call them up and have a really frank conversation with them, because you want to be, at the front of their mind when they're thinking about where I should send not only the kids that are there, but kids in the future. And so this is something that you want to build long term. And then obviously you want to see fruits of your labor, not only in 26, but 27, 28, and then hopefully leads to more wins.
Amen to that. Go get him this weekend, Coach Foreman. We'll see you back in town on Monday.
We'll see you, man. Have a good weekend.
That's Jay Foreman, host of Old School, with us here on our Aloe Fiber VIP line. Coach Foreman getting his AAU tournament coaching on this weekend. Good luck to him and his team down there. Stick with me. Don't go anywhere. Coming up here on the radio dial, it'll be the Kansas City Royals and the Chicago White Sox. Pre-game's going to start at 6, and then the game will have first pitch at 6:40 from the south side. But if you keep it on stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Aloe Channel 961, I'm hanging out with you for another hour for the Corner 3. For Jay, I'm Austin. This has been Old School, brought to you by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese.
Mike, I've been thinking, our house could really use a makeover. How about new siding?
I've been thinking the same thing. Have you heard of James Hardy?
Yes! Sarah down the street had Roofing Service Company install James Hardy siding on their home, and they love it.
Roofing Service Company does have great reviews.
They took her through the design process and made everything super easy.
Roofing Service Company offers expert design and installation. Couple that with James Hardy's durable products and variety of colors, you and your family will love your exterior remodel. Just visit roofingservicecompany.com. That's roofingservicecompany.com.
Midwest Bank is now hiring in Lincoln. They have multiple banking positions open and are looking for dynamic individuals passionate about helping others and building relationships. With a family-friendly culture, competitive benefits, and unique perks, Midwest Bank is a great